I think when history looks back at 2026, they will mark the year 2026 as the beginning of the end of Pax Americana, because America now is turning against itself, is tearing away and into pieces all the so-called values it has stood up for decades since the end of the Second World War. So I think there will be a point of no return. The Chinese economy is significantly larger than the U.S. economy. If we look at the purchasing power parity, China's economy is already about 140% that of the United States. China produces almost 3 times as much electricity as the United States, and China is the largest maker of automobile of all kind, including electric vehicle. And there is a long list of up to about 300 major items where China not only is much larger than the United States, but China accounts for, in some cases, more than 50% of the global production. So in a sense, the Chinese economy is larger and more impactful than the U.S. economy, that's for sure. But the United States wants to push around China, and they will never be successful in doing that. The United States has talked about delinking China or de-risking China. Both attempts have failed miserably, not only by the United States, but by also all those countries which follow the suit of the so-called U.S. leadership. So I think the big question in the world of today is how the United States will come to terms with a China which is larger and more impactful than the United States. It seems that the United States wants to use bullying and hegemon, for example, as its way out of the dilemma, which eventually will turn the whole world against the United States. I think when history looks back at 2026, they will mark the year 2026 as the beginning of the end of Pax Americana, because America now is turning against itself, is tearing away and into pieces all the so-called values it has stood up for decades since the end of the Second World War. So I think there will be a point of no return where what President Trump is doing, for example, holding a gun at many other countries, threatening to take over Greenland, take over Canada, you name it, try to plunder the oil and the gas reserve and minerals of many other countries, will really turn the whole world against it. So we need to be prepared about the coming moment of truth. And I don't think the future president of the United States, especially when there will be a Democratic president in the United States, will really tolerate what President Trump has been doing, not only to the United States, but to the rest of the world. As we speak now, the United States is on the verge of launching a very mighty strike against Iran. And keep in mind, Iran is a sovereign country with independence, and nobody in the world should have any legitimate right to launch a military attack against Iran, either the United States or Israel, or a collusion between the United States and Israel. China's position has always been very clear. China fully respects Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity and firmly opposes any country in launching a military strike against Iran. Now, the delicate point right now is that while the United States, mostly being urged and sometimes manipulated by Israel in launching a military strike against Iran, Iran's position is also very clear. If Iran is attacked, Iran most likely will turn on Israel. And the last confrontation between Israel and Iran has revealed a very dangerous vulnerability in the so-called Iron Dome that the Israelis have been taking pride of for many decades. It seems that the Iron Dome is not invulnerable, it is highly penetrable, and if Iran really concentrates of all its firepower against Israel after being attacked by the United States, I think the pressure on Israel will be tremendous, and this probably will cause Israelis and the Americans to second thought as to what exactly they want to do. It also seems that President Trump thrives in, launching a surprise attack and also to achieve his goal in a matter of days rather than be dragged into a long, protracted war. And no matter how the United States calculates as to what will come as a result of a military strike against Iran, the war with Iran may not be short-lived. It may be actually protracted. It may actually pull the United States into this abyss of a protracted war. And the threat from Tehran that any military strike against Iran will cause a regional conflict and confrontation should be taken very much into consideration. I think the whole region, the Middle East, for example, is on the verge of suffering a major collapse of security and safety. And the war against Iran, launched by the United States, plus Israel, most likely will pull the whole region into a period of great turmoil with unexpected consequences. China never gives heed to any pressure from any other country, and China only abides by the sanctions endorsed and approved by the United Nations Security Council. There should be no country in the world which should pretend to indulge in the fantasy that by launching unilateral sanctions against any country, they can bring China to the heel. No, China never gives any heed to any country if it wants to unilaterally sanction any other country. Such sanctions have no legal ground at all, and they should not be binding on China.